Question coming from Lee Dow, and Lee's got a few parts to this question, so I'm going to start with one, and
Okay.
I'll keep it bookmarked here. But what qualities do you think the next coach should have that will propel us into the future?
Well, that's a great question, and I think first and foremost, you have to find. I think it's important for me, and I'll only talk for my opinion. I can't talk for others, but it's important that we have a coach that right from the get-go is organized, is competitive, that has that desire to win, understands the need to develop players as well. I think has to surround himself with good assistant coaches. I think has to hold the players accountable right from day one, and that means from the time training camp breaks, you hold players accountable, whether it's a veteran player or a first-year pro. That's important because it seeps through the room if you're not holding players accountable. I want a coach, and I've told Columbus this. I want a coach that we don't have to sit here and wait to see by Christmas can this guy coach. I knew when we had Rob Riley, because of his 18 years of experience at Army, that he could coach, but I want to make sure we have a coach coming in. It doesn't have to be a guy with 10 years experience, but it could be a guy with 2 years experience, but somebody who has the ability to run a bench. Certainly running practice is very important. Being able to deal with certain players, certain individuals, understanding not all individuals are the same as people or as hockey players, and how to push the right buttons at the right time, and what I call bench management. There's some very good coaches in this league, and if you aren't on top of your game on that bench, you can get out coached in games, and I think that's important. So there's a lot of qualities that go into the in selecting the coach, and I can assure you that Columbus will go through the process and interview a number of people and feel confident they'll select the right person.
Sure. Staying with Lee, her next question was, who are some of the key players you believe would make great assets for next year's team?
Well, I mentioned one already. Nick Drzanovich, to me, I didn't know much about Nick. He had played in the St. Louis system in Peoria for a couple of years. And Kevin McDonald, who is the assistant GM of the Blues and runs the Peoria franchise, when Columbus signed Nick Drzanovich, I called Kevin, who I know very well, and he said, "You're going to love this kid. He's just a great, great kid and a good centerman for us." And if you recall, Damon, at the 17-game mark, he got hurt, and for me, he was our MVP at the 17-game mark. We missed 2 stretches with Nick due to injuries, and he ended up playing 41 games, a little more than half the season, but ended up with 41 points. And he proved we had him slotted as a number 2 centerman behind Marty St. Pierre. I'm not so sure he can't be a number 1 centerman. He's almost a point-a-game type of guy, and he's got a second speed. He's strong on the puck. He sees the ice well. He's competitive. He's got good leadership. So obviously, we'll wait and see what happens in the big picture. But Nick is certainly one I'd like to see back. You go to guys like Brent Regner. Brent is sort of a guy that to me was our unsung hero, to me personally, because he wasn't even expected to make our team. Maybe going to be in the 7th slot, if anything. And my golly, he played I think all but 1 game and just carried our team when we were so depleted on defense. So if Brent Regner was coming back, it'd be a defenseman that we know we can get from him. So we talked to Dane Byers, certainly what he can bring to a team. Again, does Dane want to come back to the Columbus organization? Those are questions between Dane and his agent, certainly, and does Columbus want to offer him a contract? So there's some sleepers in there as well. Some of the guys maybe in the lower end, Timmy Spencer, brought him in to have that heavyweight role for us, and I loved everything Tim did. And when he played, he didn't play stupid. He played smart. If there was the physicality in the game was needed, he was there. But he's a great teammate. Good in the weight room. Wasn't complaining if he wasn't playing all the time, and just the type of guy you want in that role. And Wade McLeod had a big year as well, in the sense that he showed that he can play at the American Hockey League level. So a lot of different players in the mix, but we got a lot of players around all of hockey we have to look at too, not just in Springfield.
Absolutely. And last part of Lee's question: what other factors should be addressed to make next year's team a playoff winner besides injuries and Coach Riley? What is the one other area this team needs to improve upon, in your opinion?
Well, get a number 1 goaltender that we can have right from the get-go. I mean, we were supposed to have either Dekanich or Sanford, didn't get either of them, so we missed that sort of really number 1 go-to goaltender that all the successful teams, Connecticut has Johnson and Talbot, who's a good goaltender, and Manchester is their guy. You got to have that one goaltender that can carry you and win some games when you're not supposed to win games. And a guy like Sanford, he's 4, 5, 6 wins difference for us had he been here. And that's not saying anything bad about the goaltending we had, but that's the elite type of goaltender Curtis Sanford is, or Mark Dekanich was an all-star in Milwaukee before. So you got to get a goaltender that can carry the team on different times. We've got to make sure we shore up our defense, have a little more leadership on defense, a little more experience, a little more puck-moving defensemen. We're going to have some grit back there, certainly with Amadio coming back, and if Dalton Prout doesn't make the big club next year. But we had to add some puck-moving defensemen, a guy to quarterback a power play. And I think overall, more than anything else, we have to have a team that at some point in the season can put a streak together. 6, 7. Look at the teams that made the playoffs. They all had stretches where they won 8 or 9 games. Certainly not like Norfolk, but stretches where we were in 7, 8. We were a team this year that, because of our personnel more than anything else, or we'd win 2, we'd lose 2, 3, we couldn't get a streak together. And you need a streak to sort of catapult you up in the standings, and I think that's something that's going to be very important to us as well.
Sure. Damon Markowitz coming to you with Bruce Landon inside the Mass Mutual Center, inside the Bird Day Room here right on Falcons Way, as we bring to you another weekly webisode presented by DK's Hockey and Lacrosse. DK's Hockey and Lacrosse, 1 Prior Road, down at the Enfield Twin Rinks in Enfield, Connecticut. Appreciate all they do making these webisodes possible. Can't forget about the official Facebook, official Twitter. Go to falconsahl.com. You'll see the official links for both as we bring to you today's agenda right from Facebook. Questions, these are all questions that fans had the opportunity to type in over the last 24 to 48 hours. Next question coming from Sean Randall, talking about we're all disappointed with the outcome of the season. With this said, do you believe, Bruce, because it was a winning season, as far as winning, going over 500, that's why season ticket sales were up a little bit? And do you have any price increases to worry about moving forward?
Well, we have to continue to work on building our season ticket base, and that's, fans have heard that before, so I'm not going to beat that to death. I was just on the phone earlier this morning with another team in our league who's going through the same thing, didn't make the playoffs, and trying to how do you sell tickets, and how do you come up with price points that are fair, but sort of bring in the revenues you need. And it's always a slippery slope here in Springfield. We always have always had the lowest price in the American Hockey League, and yet at the same time we've got a lot of expenses, so we have to adjust the prices accordingly, and there's slight increases going forward. But again, at the end of the day, our prices will still be, I think, the lowest of all 30 teams in the American Hockey League when it gets really down to what your average ticket price is. So that's always, again, as I say, a slippery slope. You want to be fair to the fans, understand the economy and how tough it is for people out there, but on the other hand, we have a business to run, and we have to get our prices up so the revenue is generated enough to make sure this is a viable franchise for years to come, which is the goal of certainly Charlie Pompey and myself and everybody on the staff. So as far as the season, it wasn't good enough. Are we happy with it? Absolutely not. Our goal is to not only make the playoffs, and that's something we'll talk about as we go through the summer here, but changing the culture around a little bit. It shouldn't be about making the playoffs. Obviously, that's your first step, but we got to set the bar higher. We got to set the bar higher on how to get more people in the building. We how to drive more revenue, and part of that runs in with the hockey. If we can get the team competitive and not just trying to struggle to make a playoff, but maybe a first or second or guaranteed third place team, then we can start building on some other areas as well. So we got to set the bar higher on everything we do.
Sure. Staying with the Facebook topics here. John with a D. I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name, John. I'll butcher it. I don't want to do that on camera. But his question here is talking about, with all the efforts of the organization to increase attendance this year with the Falcons, we still finished near the bottom of the AHL in attendance. Would you say that the next 2 years will determine if the team stays in Springfield? And if this is the case, maybe fans should be made aware of this so they know how important it is to support the team.
Well, it's a great question. First of all, fans get to see what's called published attendance figures, and I think I wrote one of the blogs I wrote on Mass Live was, be careful when you're looking at attendance figures, the published attendance figures, because they sometimes don't tell the true story. We finished near the bottom, but there are teams that played games in their National Hockey League buildings. I mean, Binghamton played a game, where was that, in Ottawa, in front of 14,000 people, so that 14,000 goes into Binghamton's attendance category, even though they can only seat 4,700 in their own building. I think Adirondack played a game, if I'm not mistaken, in Philadelphia in front of 17,000. So those numbers also. So the numbers aren't totally accurate. We were down near the bottom, but there's other factors that weigh into the whole picture. We have to build our attendance, and we talked about it, and Charlie and I have many talks about how are we going to get there. It's being at that 3,700 number is certainly not enough. We were a franchise at one time. We're averaging 5,000. We have to build the attendance back up. We've committed for 2 more years. I think the latter part of that question is what do we have to do to be here longer. We've made the commitment for extension of the lease for 2 more years, 2 more years with our NHL affiliate. So we've sort of said to the fans, hey, we're here. We need to work with you, more promotions, more entertainment, better hockey team. We have to put all those things together to start bringing the numbers up and see if this can be a viable franchise and get that attendance up to the numbers we need to be financially solid. The franchise is still losing money, significant amount of money. And I think it's a testament to Charlie as the majority owner, certainly to make the commitment for 2 years. And certainly our plan is if we can get the numbers where they have to be, we want to be here long term. No one has any plans of doing anything else but being here long term, but ultimately it's a business as well.
The one night I want to bring up is the night we had a sellout. We hadn't had a sellout in, I believe, almost 5 years. I believe it was March 31st, if my memory serves me right. Had 6, 7, 8, 9 here in the building. Obviously, it's our goal every night.
Right.
Finally accomplished that, but I got a lot of questions, as I'm sure you did. What pushes us over the edge to get to that sellout, and what did you see from that night?
Well, as you know, David, you've been here a long time. We're no different than a lot of other teams in the American Hockey League. We struggle because we don't have a big season ticket base to get fans in the building in the first, I call it October, November up to December. So, about 2.5 months, we struggle to get people in the building. Competition, whether it's baseball, football, high school football, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. There's competition out there, good weather. And it's hard to get group sales because we don't get, you don't get a schedule till August, so you really can't pinpoint a lot of games to do special groups and promotions. We do get 6 guaranteed nights early, which we work to try and fill up as quickly as we can. But as you know, in our business, the groups start picking up in the second. 2 things happen. One, the groups start picking up in the second half of the season, and secondly, the hockey guy sort of looks at that January as being, okay, it's hockey season now. So the hockey guy starts coming out more. What we have to do is get more of the hockey guys out early in the season and find a way to get some group sales done early in the season so we can take some of these off dates in the first 2.5 months of the season where we're playing a Sunday afternoon in October or November or a Friday night and get 3,000 or 3,500 in the building. So then we do hit the second half and we're hitting some 6,000 crowds or 5,500 crowds. Put them all together, it brings your average up. So everyone's goal in the American Hockey League is how do you get people in the first half of the season? And we had the sellout for a lot of reasons. A lot of promotion. We did some great promotions in the second half of the season, and we also really drove group sales for that game. And unfortunately, you can't drive those numbers on group sales for 38 home games. So what we need to do next year is take that one sellout and how can we make it 6 sellouts and how can we get more people in the first half of the season. So we've got our work cut out for us.